Good morning, everybody. And here we are back with one more live session with Neetu's Academy. This is Anne with you, and today is a Tuesday. So, as usual, our Tuesdays are allocated for our listening sessions, right? It's for the listening Acuity Live. So, we are going today forward with an exciting and challenging question set. Now, I'm using the word exciting and challenging both in one breath because listening module is so. Right, it is kind of like a maze, right, wherein you're looking out for the way out and you have to come out of the maze. Similarly is the listening module, and you have got a time frame for that. You need to complete that in 30 minutes. Listening module is the same, listening test actually is the same for both the candidates, academic and general, and you both get 30 minutes to complete your task. Right, you have got 4 sections, that means 4 audio clips which will be played to you. Every audio will be in the range of around between 4 to 7 minutes, on an average between 4 to 7, right? And the audios cannot be paused, the audios cannot be replayed, right? Audios are accented. It can be any foreign accent. It is never having a neutral accent, right? And your duty, your job is to complete 40 questions in the 30 minutes, right? And if you're going for a CBT, after this plus this 30, you get only 2 minutes to recheck your answer, that is review your answers. If you're going for a PBT, in that case, you're getting 10 minutes extra, 30 plus 10 for transferring your answers, right? That is something about the listening module, just an overview. Now, why do I call it exciting is because it is something like when you're hearing somebody talking, you're trying to grab the information from them. Now, this in listening module, we have got 4 audios, 4 sections. And each audio, first is a conversation, second is a monologue, third is again a conversation, fourth is again a monologue. So you're listening to somebody, right? And then you are trying to track down information from them. So it becomes kind of challenging and exciting also. Now, when it comes to the accents are not that difficult, but you should get used to it. When you practice, do take different kinds of accented audio clips and listen to their sound, because they have a different sound. We people are having a neutral accent. We don't have slangs. They have slang. So you can listen to it and get an hang of it. That is how you practice listening module, and you should do that listening test on a regular basis. Practice it because this is one module, this is one test wherein you can grab maximum band, and which will be a positive thing for your final band, final IELTS band. Okay, so that was something which I want to tell about as an overview. We are used to it, but still, just to make anybody who's new, let them aware. So let's start our listening test, listening session today, wherein before going to the evaluation of the answers, we'll listen to an audio clip, right? It will be played. You can listen to the audio clip. The questions are displayed at the same time. You can try to solve them. And once the audio piece is completed, we'll come back to the question sets and we will discuss each question, right? Checking what are the answers, why is it this particular answer, and so on, right? So let's go to audio clip. In a couple of seconds, we'll play, listen to it carefully, and then come back for the question sets. The audio clip.
Section 3. You will hear 2 psychology students called Lisa and Greg discussing a project they have to do. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 27. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 27.
OK, Greg, so I finally managed to read the article you mentioned, the one about the study on gender in physics.
About the study of college students done by Akira Miyake and his team. Yeah, I was interested that the researchers were actually a mix of psychologists and physicists. That's an unusual combination.
Yeah, I got a little confused at first about which students the study was based on. They weren't actually majoring in physics, they were majoring in what's known as the STEM disciplines. That's science, technology, engineering and...
And math. Yes, but they were all doing physics courses as part of their studies.
That's correct. So, as I understood it, Miyake and Co. started from the fact that women are underrepresented in introductory physics courses at college, and also that, on average, the women who do enrol on these courses perform more poorly than the men. No one really knows why this is the case.
Yeah, but what the researchers wanted to find out was basically what they could do about the relatively low level of the women's results. But in order to find a solution, they needed to find out more about the nature of the problem.
Right. Now, let's see if I can remember. It was that in the physics class, the female students thought the male students all assumed that women weren't any good at physics. Was that it? And they thought that the men expected them to get poor results in their tests.
That's what the women thought, and that made them nervous, so they did get poor results. But actually, they were wrong. No one was making any assumptions about the female students at all.
Anyway, what Miyake's team did was quite simple, getting the students to do some writing before they went into the physics class. What did they call it?
Values affirmation. They had to write an essay focusing on things that were significant to them, not particularly to do with the subject they were studying, but more general things like music or people who mattered to them.
Right. So the idea of doing the writing is that this gets the students thinking in a positive way.
And putting these thoughts into words can relax them and help them overcome the psychological factors that lead to poor performance. Yeah. But what the researchers in the study hadn't expected was that this one activity raised the women's physics grades from the C to the B range.
A huge change. Pity it wasn't to an A, but still. No, but it does suggest that the women were seriously underperforming beforehand in comparison with the men.
Yes. Mind you, Miyake's article left out a lot of details, like did the students do the writing just once or several times? And had they been told why they were doing the writing? That might have affected the results.
You mean if they know the researchers thought it might help them to improve, then they just try to fulfill that expectation?
Exactly.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 28 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 28 to 30.
So anyway, I thought for our project we could do a similar study, but investigate whether it really was the writing activity that had that result.
OK, so we could ask them to do a writing task about something completely different, something more factual, like a general knowledge topic.
Maybe. Or we could have half the students doing a writing task and half doing something else, like an oral task.
Or even half do the same writing task as in the original research and half do a factual writing task. Then we'd see if it really is the topic that made the difference or something else.
That's it. Good. So, at our meeting with the supervisor on Monday, we can tell him we've decided on our project. We should have our aims ready by then. I suppose we need to read the original study. The article's just a summary.
And there was another article I read by Smolinski. It was about her research on how women and men perform in mixed teams in class, compared with single-sex teams and on their own.
Let me guess. The women were better at teamwork.
That's what I expected. But actually, the men and the women got the same results, whether they were working in teams or on their own. But I guess it's not that relevant to us.
What worries me, anyway, is how we're going to get everything done in the time.
We'll be okay now we know what we're doing. Though I'm not clear how we assess whether the students in our experiment actually make any progress or not.
No, we may need some advice on that. The main thing's to make sure we have the right size sample, not too big or too small.
That shouldn't be difficult. Right, what do we need to do next? We could have a look at the timetable for the science classes. Or perhaps we should just make an appointment to see one of the science professors. That'd be better.
Great. And we could even get to observe one of the classes.
What for?
Well, OK, maybe let's just go with your idea. Right, well, I think that's everything for now.
That is the end of section 3.
Okay, so that was the audio clip which was played, right? And if you had listened to the audio clip properly, you would have come to know that this is taken from section 3. Section 3 questions ranging from 21 to 30. Question number 21 to 30. Every section has got 10 questions. So this section also had 10 questions. Okay, and the questions were divided into 2 parts. Even the question type was same. Both the question types are multiple choice questions and single answers, right? They didn't choose the correct letters A, B or C, and from 21 to 30 you have the questions, but they played the audio clips in 2 with interval, played from 1 to 27 first and then 28 to 30 later on. Right? So let's take the questions. Now multiple choice questions, which are MCQs, they have got 2 types in listening. MCQs with single answers and MCQs with multiple answers. So this was a single answer, but specifically they have given choose the correct answer A, B or C. You have to choose any one, either A, either B or C. Every question has got 3 options each, right? So you have to choose only one, that's single answer. If it's a multiple answer, multiple choice, and specifically they will tell you choose these many options, choose at least 3 or 4 or how much the number is out of these total options, and the options will be always more than what you have to choose for. That is quite obvious, right? Okay, so this is multiple choice questions. All the 10 questions are multiple choice, single answers, right? And there's a title which is given. It is Study on Gender in Physics. So this is what the audio is dealing with, right? The whole audio has been taken into consideration, and then they have given you 10 questions. The title is the center topic of the audio, Study on Gender in Physics, right? So let's take the first question. The first statement actually is, the students in 𝐀𝐝𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐬𝐬 study were all majoring in, right? So the students, the main keywords, you have to take keywords whenever you look at the questions. You have got 20-25 seconds in front of you before the audio is played, right? Because while the audio is being played, you cannot give too much attention to the question. You can just have a detailed attention can be given in the 20-25 seconds. Go to all the questions, mark some keywords which will make it easier for you to track the keywords when the audio is being played, which will help you to get the answers appropriately and quickly without losing the focus. Because once you have lost that audio clip, that part of the audio, it cannot be replayed, right? So here what we are looking for what is connected to the students. Okay, the students were all majoring in, right? So what was their major subjects? They were majoring in what, right? Like we take commerce, science or whatever it is. So what were they majoring? We have got 3 options. Either it's physics, it is psychology or physics, second one, or it is science, technology, engineering or mathematics. So 3 options are there, 3 different types of subjects are mentioned. So let's see which is the correct one. I will go to the audio script because the audio is already played in front of you, right? So let's see. This was a conversation between 2 students about their project works, right? So Lisa is the first one who opens the communication. She says, okay Greg, so I finally managed to read the article you mentioned, the one about the study on gender in physics. So you have got an option called physics there. So don't keep it in your backup, but that doesn't make your answer correct. You need to have check if other options are mentioned or not, right, towards the audio as the audio progresses, right? So you can see, so she is mentioning that I read an article you mentioned, the one about the study on gender in physics. Then the second one after that Greg says, the second person, About the study of college students done by 𝐀𝐝𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐬𝐬 and his team. There's a question mark there. That means he's asking her. Is it that one? That is the study which was done about this particular student and his team. Yeah, I was interested that the researchers were actually a mix of psychologist and physics. Now again, the second option we had is psychology and physics. That is also mentioned, right? Be sure that all the things which are given to you in the options will be mentioned somewhere in the audio, right? And you have to choose which is the correct one. That's an unusual combination, right? So she mentioned that it was an article about the study on gender in physics, right? Second one says, okay, he says, yeah, that is the one. I was interested because the researchers actually making a mix of psychologist and physics, right? Physicist. Lisa, yeah, I got a little confused at first about which students the study was based on. Which students, right? What kind of students? Is it the people who take physics? Is it the people who take psychology and physics, right? They weren't actually majoring in physics. So that gives you the answer. That means the first option which says physics, they weren't actually majoring. They weren't is a negative sentence. That means they were not majoring. Physics is not their major subject. They were majoring in what's known as the STEM disciplines, that is science, technology, engineering and maths. Yes, but they were all doing physics courses as part of their studies. They had physics courses as a part of their studies, but they were majoring in these 4 subjects: science, technology, engineering and maths, which is called as STEM. Right? So here they are telling it's a researchers. Okay, so yeah, I was in it. Researchers were actually a mix. The people who researched on their students, they were psychologists and physics. So that is how it is confusing. It is not about the students who took psychology and physics, right? They were actually majoring in these 4 subjects, and we have that option in option C. We have science, technology, engineering and mathematics, right? So that is your correct answer for 21, which is C, right? Fine. Going to 22nd statement. The aim of Miyake's study was to investigate. So what was the aim of this person's, that is Akira Miyake and his team, the researchers are studying, and what they were investigating? The aim of that study, what was it? What was they researching? What was the main aim, right? Investigate. Okay. What kind of women chose to study physics? That is about women who chose to study physics. Second one, a way of improving women's performance in physics. Improving again the women's performance in physics. 3. C, that is whether fewer women than men study physics at college. Again, the comparison between men and women, maybe the percentage, whether women are less. Female students who take physics as subject are less than the male students or not. So that was were they investigating that. So let's go to the audio script, and we read till physics part of their study. So we'll come to Lisa. That's correct. So as I understood it, Miyake and company started from the fact that women are underrepresented in introductory physics courses at college, and also that on average. So they started with the fact, so they had somewhere understanding, they had something, a factual information that women were underrepresented in introductory physics courses at college, and also that on average women who do enroll to these courses perform more poorly than the men. So no one really knew why this was the case. So either they were underrepresented, they were not given opportunities to represent in the colleges with physics courses, and secondly, whoever was enrolling, they were performing poorly compared to men. So they were researching on this. I mean, they stated why this was happening, because no one was clear about the reason. Greg, yeah, but what researchers wanted to find out? Now we are looking like what researchers were finding with that particular investigation was basically what they could do about the relatively low level of women results, right? So they were actually working on what they could do. They were not going to find out the reason why women were performing low or women why were underrepresented. They were actually looking out for a way to improve it, how to bring it up, right? So they were actually wanted to find out what they could do at a relatively low level of what they could do, how they can rectify it, or what is the way out for it, what they could do about the relatively low level of women results in physics. So the options we have is we had what kind of women choose to study physics? No. A way of improving women's performance in physics. Yes, ways of improving. What they could do, right? That was the ways, right? Whether few women than men study physics at college, that was not. That was actually a fact which they knew, right? So they were actually looking out for ways to improve the women's performance. That is the correct answer for 22nd, which is B. 23rd statement, the female physics students were wrong to believe that. So now this is connected to the female physics students. Whole students alla, only the girl physics students, they were wrong about believing in something. They had a misconception. Wrong means they were misconceiving something to believe. They had a wrong belief about what? Belief that teachers marked them in unfair way. The teachers were marking them in unfair way. The male students expected them to do badly. The male students already thought that they will do badly, right? And the test results were lower than the male students, and they all believed that their results were lower than the male students, right? So we have to check which is the correct option. We have read till here, wherein Greg says how to improve women's results, but in order to find a solution, you need to find out more about the nature of the problem, right? So Lisa says, right. Now let's see if I can remember. It was that in the physics class, the female students thought, right? From thinking starts a belief, thought. The male students all assumed. Assume means they something which maybe it's not correct, right? Maybe it won't come out as, it will come out as wrong, or it will come out as right, but we already assume it, like guesswork, right? That is called assumption. So they thought that the male students, the male counterparts, all assumed that women weren't good at physics. So they believed that the male already thought that the women were not equally good like them in physics. Was that it? And they thought that the men expected them to get poor results. So first, they assumed that they were not good at physics. Secondly, they expected them to get poor results in their test. So that is what they assumed then. That's what the women thought, okay, and that made them nervous. So they did not get poor results, but actually they were wrong, right? No one was making any assumptions about the female students at all. So the women believed that the men thought they will get test results and they are not good at physics, but whatever their thought process was, it was wrong, right? It was not actually like that. So here, what were they wrong about? The female physics students were wrong about to believe that the teachers marked them unfair. Clearly not, other than Sanatalia. The male students expected them to do badly. The test results were lower than the male students. So yes, so the male students expected them to do badly. This was something they really assumed, because they thought, the male students thought that their physics was not good as the male. So B is your correct answer for 23rd. Right? Okay, now coming to 24. Miyake's team asked the students to write about. Now he and his team were working on this particular research thing, right? They were trying to find the root of the problem and how to solve it, right? So they took an experiment. What they did, they asked the students to write about what they enjoyed about studying physics, about the successful experiences of other people, about something that was important to them personally. So why they enjoyed physics, right? Successful experiences of other people, not themselves, other people. Something that was important to them personally. On a personal level, something which was very important or significant to them. Either of these topics they had to write. So let's see what the answer is. Yeah, so we have read till here, that is about the male and female students comparison. So Lisa says, anyway, what Miyake's team did was quite simple, getting the students to do some writing before they went into the physics class. What did they call it? So now they gave something to write, which is already given here, before they went to the physics class. What did they call it? What was it about? Okay, what was the writing called as? It was called as values affirmation, right? That is affirming your values, right? That means getting a thorough belief in your values, getting it affirmed, stamped, right, verified. They had to write an essay focusing on things that were significant. Now, significant is a word which is synonymous to important, right? It is synonymous to important. Fine. To them, not particularly with the subject they were studying. So they were studying physics, so it was not about physics, not particularly to do with subject. That means it was not connected to physics at all. They were not writing anything connected to physics, but more general things like music or people who mattered to them. Now, people becomes personal, right? Music they love becomes again personal. What they like becomes again personal. Who matter to them, okay? All things are personal things. The people who they like, the music they like, or what matters to them is all their personal, which can change from A, B, C student. A student may like something else, B student may like something else, C may like something else. So that's quite personal, right? So what they were writing, they're not writing about physics. They were writing about things were significant and mattered to them. So the options are what they enjoy studying about physics, utter no. Successful experience of other people, not mentioned. Something that was important to them personally. So this is where the answer lies. Okay. So the answer for 24 is C. Right. Coming to 25. What was the aim of the writing exercise done by the students? So the students had an aim. Why they were writing it? What was that aim? To reduce stress, right? To strengthen verbal ability. That means to make communication much better. To encourage logical thinking. Think more logically, in a creative manner. Not a creative manner, very logical manner, right? So what was the aim of the writing exercise which was given to them on this subject? Right, so the idea of doing writing is that this gets students thinking in a very positive way. So they are thinking in a very positive manner, right? And putting these positive thoughts into words can relax them. This is the word. What it can relax them. Okay? Relaxing, rejuvenating, de-stressing, and help them overcome the psychological factors that lead to poor performance. Psychological factors again connected to stress, right? That can lead to poor performance. So what are the options there given? First one is to reduce stress, to strengthen verbal ability, not given, to encourage logical thinking, not given. So the correct answer is A, which is to reduce stress, which will relax them, okay, and it will not affect them factors which can, because of stress, if you're psychologically affected, then that can affect your performance. So this was to eradicate that. Fine. Going to 26. What surprised the researchers about the story? So now after that writing process was given, the outcome came. So what was the surprise the researchers got? First one says, how few students managed to get A grades? That is about A grades, maximum marks, impressionable grades. The positive impact it had on physics results for women. So the results of women, right? The difference between male and female performance. So there's a different distinction between the male and female performances. So let's see what is the correct one. If you go to that part, yeah, but what the researchers and study hadn't expected, that means they were surprised. Something which you don't expect is always a surprise. It can be a pleasant one, it can be unpleasant one, but something which unexpected is always surprising. So what researchers the study hadn't expected was that this one activity raised means improved, right? Raised the women's physics grades from the C to the B range. They were on C grade, they upgraded to B range. So there was a good improvement in their grades. So that was what achieved from this particular activity. Correct option. If we go to the options, the question number is 26. What surprised the researchers? How few students managed to get A grades? No. The positive impact it had on physics results for women. The difference between male and female performance. So we're not looking at male and female performance. We're not looking at students who got A grades also. They are specifically given the difference. For the positive impact, it's better. So from C to B, it's always a positive. So positive impact it had on the physics results for women. So that is your correct answer. That is B. Okay. 27. Greg and Lisa think Miyake's results could have been affected by. Now, these two people, Greg and Lisa, who are talking, right? They thought that these results could have been affected by something else. There could have been an effect on it by something which is given in 3 options. The length of the writing task, the number of students who took part, the information students were given, right? So, let's see what they thought about it. Okay, a huge change. Pity it wasn't to an A. But still, no, because they got from C to B. It was not A, so they are being very sympathetic about it. But still, that means but better. There was a improvement. No, but it does suggest that the women were seriously underperforming beforehand in comparison with the men. Greg, yes, mind you, Miyake's article left out a lot of details. Like, did the students do the writing just once or several times? And had they been told why they were doing the writing, that might have affected the results. So he's telling that some things were actually should have been told to them. Like in the research itself, in the article itself, if it was founded by the researchers, whether the students should have been asked when the research was done, whether you wrote the writing article only once or several times you wrote to get this grade. That was missing out. Secondly, they were not told why they were writing this. So before this writing task was given to them, the students were not told why you are writing this. So Lisa and Greg thinks that if it was told to them, if they were told why they were writing this particular writing article, maybe the results could have been better. Maybe. So it could have affected the results, right? So effect would definitely, because they're talking about a grade A, so maybe it would have been better, right? So now let's go to the options. 27. The length of the writing task, not mentioned. The number of students who took part, not mentioned. The information the students were given. So that is, they were not informed, right? It is specifically told, they were not told, right? What information was not given to them, that why you are writing this. If that was informed to them, then maybe it would have been better. So that is what the option is correct. The option is C. Okay, now coming to 28. Greg and Lisa decide that in their own project, they will compare the effects of. Okay, so now this all questions are connected to Greg and Lisa, right? What they are thinking. So they decide on something. They decide that in their own project, right, whatever is their own research project, they will compare the effects of 2 different writing tasks. Okay, a writing task with an oral task. That is about writing task. This is about one oral task and an writing and oral task. 2 different oral tasks. Okay, 3 options what they are going to do. So let's see. Yeah, you mean if they know the researchers thought it might help them to improve, then they would just try to fulfill that. They would just try to fulfill their expectation. Exactly. That is what the first part, right? That means if the students knew that they are writing for this particular reason, then maybe they would have come up to the expectations, which could have been an A grade. Exactly. So anyway, Greg says, so anyway, I thought for our project, we could do a similar study, but investigate whether it really was a writing activity that had the result. So they are going to do the similar project, but then what they are going to do is that they will also investigate whether the it was the writing activity that had the results. So what was the activity connected to? Is that because of this the result came? Lisa, okay, so we could ask them to do a writing task about something completely different, something more factual, like a general knowledge topic, right? Greg, maybe, or, so already Lisa is telling 2 options, something which is very factual, second, so like a general knowledge topic. Greg is telling maybe, or means you have got another option. Choices are there. Or we could have half the students doing a writing task. So half the students would do a writing task and half doing something else like an oral task. Right? So some of them will do writing task, right, and equal number of others will do like an oral task, right, because it's half I told equal, right. So like an oral task, and then 2 types of task will be performed, that is already given. Then or even half do the same writing task as in the original research and half do the factual writing task. So see, again here there is an or. There is an or here, right? And there is an or here, Lisa says, or even half do the same writing task as in the original research and half do a factual writing task. So they come to this thing, right? Then we would see if it really is a topic that made the difference or something else. That's it. Good. So that's it. Good. So that means Greg is also affirming that. He is also acknowledging, he is also authenticating. He is telling, okay, that is correct. So there are 3 options here. If you go, first is something more factual and general. Second, they say writing and a oral task. And finally, in the end, they say we'll go for 2 different writing tasks, right? Original research and have to do factual writing, right? So you have got options here for 28 statement. Greg and Lisa, that in the project they will compare the effects of what? 2 different writing tasks. A writing task with an oral task, which they, with an or, they told it's not. 2 different oral tasks not at all mentioned. So the answer for that is 2 different writing tasks is A. That is the correct option. So that part is a bit confusing because first they are giving the first option, which is first what they are going to accept, what kind of writing task they are going to, that is in the option itself. Then in the last, she is telling an option which is accepted by Greg. That's it, good. That means he is affirming it. So that is the correct option, right? Okay. 29. The main finding of Smolinski's research was that class teamwork activities were most effective when done by all women groups, had no effect on, so when they were most effective, they were most in giving good positive results when done by all women groups, right? This is about the Smolinski's research, right? And it was about class teamwork activities. Okay, had no effect on the performance of men and women. There was not at all effect. It was not at all effective on performance of both men and women. Third one, it improved the results of men more than women. So there, the results of men were better than of women. So there are 3 options. Now let's go to the part of the audio, which says about this. Okay, that's it, good. So at our meeting with the supervisor on Monday, we can tell him we have decided on a project. We should have our aims ready by then. I suppose we need to write the original story. The article is just a summary. Lisa. And there was another article. This is about another research I read by Smolinski. It was about her research on how women and men perform in mixed teams in class, compared with single-sex teams and on their own. So when their 2 genders are performing rather than 1 gender each. So this man is doing on team, working as men and women. Let me guess. Greg says, let me guess. The women were better at teamwork. Now this is his guess, huh? He says, let me guess specifically. So you have to get a confirmation on that. Women were better than at teamwork. Other options lund. So this is his guess. So we need to know whether it's correct or not. That's what Lisa says. That's what I expected. But actually, so this is where it will be changed. But actually, but is synonymous to however. However is a linker which makes the previous statement, disqualifies the previous statement and makes the coming statement true. But actually, the men and the women got the same results whether they were working in teams or on their own. So when he is guessing, he is telling women are performing better. Lisa is telling that's what I expected. But then what happened? That men and women got the same results whether they were working in teams or on their own. Okay, teams didn't matter. So the option, you have an option there. It says were most effective when done by all women groups. That was no. Had no effect on the performance of men and women, right? Improved the results of men more than women. So the option for that is B. There was no effect when they were playing in teams or they were playing as individual groups. So that's why the answer is B. Okay. Last one, 30. What will Lisa and Greg do next? So now they are doing on their research. So what are they going to do next? Lisa and Greg. Talk to a professor, observe a science class, look at the science timetable. 3 options, very simple. Either professor, or they will observe a science class, or they will look at a science timetable. Okay. Well, but I guess it's not that relevant to us. What worries me, Greg, what worries me anyway is how we are going to get everything done in the time. Lisa will be okay, now we do know what we are doing, though I'm not clear how we assess whether students in our experiment actually make progress or not. Greg, no, we may need some advice on that. The main thing is to make sure we have the right size sample, not too big or too small. Lisa, that shouldn't be difficult, right? What do we need to do next? What do we know to do next? Which is what we're looking for. We could have a look at the timetable. Probability is less, right, for the science classes. Or perhaps we should just make an appointment to see one of the science professors. That would be better, right? Great. And we could even get to observe one of the classes. What for? Well, okay, maybe let's just go with your idea. Right. Now this part of the audio, when you listen to it, all the 3 options are there. Timetable, professor and science class. And these 3 options are given with your question. But then in the end he says, maybe just go with your idea. That is, Greg says, let's go with Lisa's idea. Lisa's idea is that we will go and see the science professor. Okay, though even she says 2 of them. First she says timetable, and then she says meeting the professor is better. And that's what Greg says. Along with that, we could get to observe a science class. But then she says what for? So he says no, it's fine. So let's go with your idea of meeting a professor. So that will be the correct option, which you have to choose for 30. They will talk to a professor. Okay, so that is your correct option. Fine. So these are the 10 multiple choice single answer for this section. Okay, sometimes this do come 10 questions of same type. That does happen because MCQs, like I told, it's a very common kind of question in listening. A single answer or multiple. Single answers are more common, but multiple answers do come. They do come, right? So you should be prepared for both. So this was today's listening test evaluation, what we did, listening test section. We'll end it here today. We'll connect next week again, most probably with the section 4 of this same test, right? Because that is the process we adopt. So till then, you keep on practicing all your modules. Keep yourself safe and have a nice day. Goodbye.